How is the new Hulk coping with the death of Bruce Banner? Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down for you into digestible bites, and then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Time passed during the events of the Second Civil War, and a news report goes out regarding the recent killing of Bruce Banner by the hero who killed him, Clint Barton. Maddie listens in as the news goes on, talking about how Bruce Banner's Hulk was a monster, and even with their new Hulk, can that new Hulk be trusted? As Amadeus lays in his bed, Maddie brings him some soup and tells him to eat. Amadeus says that he's fine, and Maddie tells him that she knows what he's thinking. He cured Bruce, and if he hadn't when Barton came for him, Bruce never would have died. She tells him that it's not his fault. The last time that they saw Bruce, he was really happy. Genuinely happy. That's what Amadeus did for him. And then the sound of the doorbell stops Maddie. The two of them go to check who it is, and as Amadeus opens the door, he says, "I know it's not my fault. It's theirs." Outside the door, Carol Danvers is waiting with soldiers all pointing their guns. Amadeus asks her, "Should I be worried?" And Carol tells him no. They just wanted to see how he was doing. Amadeus says that he's fine, and even with 14 different kinds of sensors running tests on me right now, I'm perfectly normal and stable. Who would have thunk? However, according to my readings, Agent Jake over there with the ultrasonic sensor rifle is about to have a heart attack. Carol tells him that he needs to be serious for a minute, and Amadeus asks, "You want serious? You shot my best friend in the eye in cold blood. I know you had your prophecy guy telling you that Bruce was gonna kill everyone someday, but he was cured and he was happy." Carol tells him that the person who shot Bruce was completely unauthorized, and he's been taken into custody and he's been tried. But Amadeus stops her, telling her that he knows that in his brain, but in his heart, it's a little different. Amadeus then tells him, "I know you're worried that I'm gonna be going all crazy. Even I would be worried. I'm just a 19-year-old kid. I'm young and confused. All I wanna do is mourn for a little while. Is that okay?" Maddie shouts out, "Of course it is! Now everyone get the hell out of here!" And Jake reports that all signs remain normal, and Carol tells him, "Of course they are. I'm sorry for your loss. Contact me if you ever need me." Before leaving, Amadeus calls out to Carol and asks, "If I was to go crazy, what makes you think you could stop me?" Carol stares back, and then she watches Amadeus smile. And then she smiles and tells him to take care. A little while later, Amadeus is jumping through West Virginia while Carol watches from above in the SHIELD helicarrier. Jake reports that his readings are going off the charts. He's just going crazy. Amadeus continues punching away, and a voice tells them that they need to intervene right now. Carol continues to watch and then tells them to wait. There it is. On the screen, they see the message, "Made you look," punched into the ground. Soon, Amadeus' levels return to normal, and Carol says they should back off for a bit. And a voice tells her, yes, she needs to back off. And then T'Challa says, "I'll take it from here." A short while later, T'Challa takes off in his jet, and Agent Jake tells him that it's seriously an honor to come with him on this mission. He's read every debrief about all of T'Challa's missions, and T'Challa stops him, stating, "I've read about you too, how you served under James Rhodes. James Rhodes, who was just killed in one of Carol's missions. So maybe you might be mad at her? And on the other hand, I nearly killed James in the first war between the heroes, so maybe you're mad at me. So what is it that you think you're doing here?" Jake stops for a minute and then he says, he joined S.H.I.E.L.D. because he believes that there are some problems in the world that can't be solved without force. And the Hulk may be one of those problems. He also believes that force should be the last resort. He doesn't want to see Amadeus end up like James. T'Challa tells him that he speaks to the King of Wakanda. Every moment of his conscious life, he has to weigh the consequences of fighting and failing to fight. So, with the lives of thousands in the balance, does he really think that he has something to contribute to that? Jake then says, he's a soldier, the kind of grunt who has to deal with those decisions made by kings. So yes sir, he does. T'Challa and Jake go back to monitoring Amadeus, and they continue to read that his readings are normal. And then they see him write the word "buy" and ketchup on the table. And then all of the monitors suddenly go out. Out on the road, Amadeus races down the street when a shadow begins to form over him, and Maddie yells that he needs to stop. She's been watching his movements and she knows where he's heading. So what the hell is he thinking? He tells her that Barton killed Bruce, and Maddie adds, because Bruce told him to. Everyone saw the video played at the trial. Amadeus shouts, "He wasn't in control! I cured him! There's no way that Bruce would have turned into the Hulk again." And Maddie asks, what is he going to do when he finds Barton? Amadeus tells her, "I'll figure that out when I see him." Maddie begins to get reports that there is a new monster sighted in Austin, Texas. And it's a job for the Hulk, so they need to head. Amadeus stops her, telling her not to distract him. Besides, he's already tracking a monster, so send Carol Danvers to Austin. Later that night, Amadeus swims through the ocean until he arrives on a beach. As he walks through the woods, he finds a cabin, and inside, Clint Barton is sitting eating his cereal when the door swings open and Amadeus is standing there. Clint tells him, "I know you're angry," and Amadeus begins to change into the Hulk, and he tells him,
"You have no idea."
Clint tells him, "I thought so." And then he begins to fade, and T'Challa is standing in his place. Amadeus shouts,
"Where's Barton?"
And T'Challa tells him, "Nowhere that you're gonna find him." Outside of the cabin, barriers start to close off the area, and Amadeus manages to jump out just as they're closing. As he does, T'Challa jumps after him in his own Hulkbuster armor, firing a sonic gun. Amadeus pulls back and releases a powerful clap that sends the suit flying. Jake reports that the gamma levels are spiking, and next T'Challa fires a spore cloud to try and knock out Amadeus. Through the smoke, Amadeus punches back, and then he runs over stating,
"I didn't come here to fight."
And T'Challa tells him, "Then you need to surrender." Amadeus tells him,
"You have no right to make those demands. I didn't do anything. I just came here too."
And T'Challa reaches out and grabs onto him. He tells Amadeus that the armor absorbs and magnifies energy, so the more he fights, the stronger that T'Challa's gonna get. T'Challa goes on stating, "You can surrender." But then the radio goes off as Maddie calls in. Amadeus tells her that he's fine, and she tells him, well, she's not. She's in Texas and they have a big problem. Just 15 minutes before Maddie made her call, the streets of Austin were filled with people, in particular one boy who was watching the people. He watches how everyone is happy, and how boring that is. The boy then cuts the string off of the child's balloon, and as the child cries, he says, "Well, that's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough." And then he begins to change. As the people begin to run, an explosion goes off. And back in Arkansas, the struggle between Amadeus and T'Challa continues as T'Challa pins Amadeus down. While Amadeus is trying to fight back, Maddie continues telling him what's going on out in Texas. Soon the rage begins to run through Amadeus, and he rips off one of the suit's arms. T'Challa shouts for Jake to teleport him out, but Jake says that the energy coming off of him, it's like, wait, he set off a mini EMP. As the Hulkbuster loses power, Amadeus begins jumping away, and over in Texas, Maddie tries to fight off the giant bug creature. The monster tells her that she's all locked up, totally under control. So he swings at her again and he tells her,
"How about you feel some fear? Maybe grief? How about anger?"
The creature then notices a woman trying to run away and he slashes away at her chest. Once the woman falls, the child begins to cry and the creature says,
"That's what I'm looking for."
Maddie manages to shock the creature and tells Amadeus that the creature is some kind of emotional leech. So if you want to beat it, you need to control yourself. The creature jumps back up, slashing towards Maddie and knocking her down. And he tells her,
"Yes, you're finally losing it. I love that anger."
Suddenly a shadow appears overhead and Amadeus comes crashing down onto the creature. The two start punching away at each other and the creature tells him,
"This is so good."
With the emotions that Amadeus is going through, the creature slowly begins to get larger and it cuts down on Amadeus' face. Maddie shouts to stop, "All you're doing is feeding him." And Amadeus tells her, "I know." And soon Amadeus turns the struggle and throws the creature onto his back, punching him harder and deeper into the ground. He shouts,
"No one can stop me. I'm the strongest that there is."
Then soon the creature calls out,
"Yes, pride, I love it."
Once the creature stands back up, it starts swinging its claws, cutting into Amadeus. And as blood begins to drip from his wounds, Amadeus stands in shock, and then he falls over. The creature reaches out and grabs a hold of the child from there and begins walking down the alleyway. Maddie chases after it, but the creature is gone. And Amadeus starts to get back up, and Maddie then says, "When are you going to listen?" T'Challa and Jake then make their way to the scene, and Amadeus tells them,
"Please, help me."
Amadeus begins to change back into his human form, stating, "That monster took the kid. We need to find." And suddenly a laser is fired out, hitting Amadeus. T'Challa looks back and Jake says they have to stick to the plan. They have to send him into the negative zone. Maddie begins to shout, "What? No, no, no! We don't have time for this! Everyone's gonna have to suck it up and work together." T'Challa and Jake help the woman up, and T'Challa agrees to help, and Amadeus and Maddie get back to work trying to figure out what their next move is. As they look into the alleyway, they see a crack in the ground, and Maddie says that the monster just changed size. Amadeus looks and says that it's an irregular shaft about 10 inches wide at its narrowest, which means him and Maddie are the only ones who can fit. T'Challa tells him, "Fine, but no fighting. I'll give you orbs so we can track you while I find another way down." Soon, Amadeus and Maddie start making their way down, and Jake radios in that the subject's name is Christian Sung. He's a music student from Johnson State and has no criminal record. As they get further down in the hole, Maddie begins to notice that the passage is a little too narrow for her, and then she realizes that Amadeus did that on purpose. Once he jumps down into the sewer, he tells her exactly, and he runs off ahead. He then turns the corner and he sees Christian holding the screaming child. Christian says that the child is very, very scared, and Amadeus tells him, "Yeah, we should get him back to his mother." Christian then says, "I like scared, but it's getting boring," and he holds the child over the ledge. Amadeus tells him that they all just need to calm down, And Christian says, I know all about you and the fact that you're the Hulk. I know all about the anger, fear, pride, the emotions inside of you. So I'm going to kill as many people as I can just to see what I can get out of you. Suddenly, Christian releases the child, but before the child can land, T'Challa jumps through, catching him. Amadeus changes back into the Hulk and he grabs a hold of Christian, and he tells Jake to activate the negative zone teleporter. Jake begins working away, and then Maddie overrides his computer, telling him that he will not be sending him because that will also send Amadeus with him. Amadeus struggles with Christian and tells her,
I have to do it.
and Maddie tells him no, but Amadeus tells her,
Shut up and just let me do it.
Maddie finally falls through the cracks, and then Christian focuses his attention towards her. She begins firing her gun, changing her emotions, and Christian shouts,
So good!
and then Maddie shouts, now! And Christian suddenly stops, and then a light shines as the teleporter takes him away. Amadeus says,
That was amazing.
and Maddie says, yeah, okay then, bye. Amadeus asks where she's going, and she stops and turns and tells him, I'm done with all of this. Every time you say you're learning or you're getting a little bit better, you just fall back down. So I'm not gonna be your enabler, because you might hurt someone someday. I don't want to hear any more excuses. You should never have become the Hulk. A week passes, and Amadeus finally manages to track down the man that he's been looking for, Clint Barton. As he walks into the diner, he tells him that he shouldn't be alone, it's dangerous for him. And Clint says that he really doesn't know what he wants, but he did kill Bruce for good reasons. He's been thinking about those reasons over and over ever since then. Amadeus smashes his fist down and he says that he told Carol that she couldn't stop him if he wanted to kill Clint. No one can stop him. Not her, not S.H.I.E.L.D., not even his sister. It felt good to look her in the eyes and tell her that. Rather, actually know that. Like, I'm in charge. As Clint sits without saying a word, Amadeus changes back, stating, all I really want is my friend back. I shouldn't even be here. Bruce wouldn't have wanted this. He would have said everything's gonna be okay. And Amadeus looks at Clint, but I'm not okay. Not even a little bit. Clint looks at him, and tears begin to stream down his face. And he tells him, neither am I. Amadeus begins to cry with him, and the two of them just sit there. And that brings us to the conclusion of how Amadeus dealt with the death of Bruce Banner. But he's not the only Hulk out there. If you want to know what's happening with She-Hulk, go pick up the latest Hulk. But it's time for us to move on to another Civil War II storyline. If you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and I'll see you next time right here at the Comicstorian channel.